Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Sports Bar. On this day before Valentine's Day edition, we've got App State men's basketball and women's basketball, a huge win and great news for App State wrestling, and more right here, right now on Sports Bar. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Travis Stanley alongside Braxton Critcher. But enough with the introductions, let's dive right in. App State women's basketball knocked off Georgia Southern this past Thursday by a score of 73-48. Maddie Story has been a big talk this season. She came out of this game with 17 points on the board and led the team with 6 assists. Also on the buzz this week was Ashley Bassett-Smith, who came down hard on the Eagles with 12 points as well as 4 swats, which now make her the 4th all-time blocker at Appalachian. The Mountaineers also produced 18 turnovers throughout the game. Georgia Southern seemed to struggle to get on their feet this game and didn't have any points on the board for the first 3 minutes of game time. App throughout the game seemed ready and not backing down, even when they had a strong lead. Thanks to their coach Angel Eldricken, it looks like the Mountaineers will be looking forward to more wins like this one this season.
In other Mountaineer news this week, the 17th ranked wrestling team easily toppled VMI last Wednesday by a final score of 38-6. The win solidified a few noteworthy accomplishments for the team and the community. First, the win gave the Mountaineers their 2nd straight SoCon Conference championship, and this is the first time Appalachian has gone undefeated in conference play since 2011. Secondly, App will be hosting the NWCA Division I Championship Series here in Boone. This is the very same tournament that the Mountaineers won last season when they defeated the Indiana Hoosiers in the championship game. This year's tournament will be held this Sunday at 3 p.m. here on campus. While the gym has not been confirmed, this will most likely be held at Varsity Gym. Mark that down on your calendar while we take a short break. And on the other side, we have updates on Premier League soccer and the return of last season's panelists, Jack and Sam, in an all-new segment. Welcome back to Sports Bar. Now we shift our focus from App State sports and even sports here in the U.S. as we welcome in our own expert on Premier League soccer, Jamie Patel. So Jamie, tell us a little bit about what's new in Premier League soccer.
So this past weekend we had title favourites Chelsea going at it again against their hated rivals Arsenal, and they played at Stamford Bridge and beat them 3-1 and continue their title rampage as Marcus Alonso opened the scoring with what could be considered a controversial header. He's gone and thrown his elbow up there and headed into the back of the net after Diego Costa's initial shot was parried by the keeper. And Chelsea went on their way after then. Hazard, another fantastic player for Chelsea this season, another mazy run into the box and finished well to add Chelsea second. And it just got worse for Arsenal as their former captain and midfielder Cesc Fabregas added the 3rd for Chelsea when Czech's clearance went awry. Straight to Fabregas, lobbed it over the keeper, 3-0 to Chelsea, game over at that point.
Wow.
And Arsenal did get a goal back through Olivier Giroud in stoppage time to make it 3-1.
And Czech, he'll play until he's 55, most likely. We were talking before the show a little bit about Leicester City and their success last year and how that they're a few games from relegation potentially this year. What do you feel like has contributed to their poor play this year?
Well, having noticed the rise and fall of Leicester City these past few years, Leicester have been a shadow of the side they were last season, and that's a bit of an understatement, obviously. They've been pretty terrible in terms of performance this season. But beyond the fact that they lost one of their key players in N'Golo Kanté in the midfield, who was a midfield destroyer and is doing well for Chelsea at the moment, the players haven't shown up. They've just not shown the desire and the spirit that's required to win, to continue playing in the Premier League. And it's just not good enough, honestly. Jamie Vardy, he's not the striker he used to be. He doesn't bug defenders anymore. He's not being a pest and, throwing elbows out there and, like, just trying to annoy the defenders. He's playing like he's playing with the ball in front of him and attacking at the players rather than, trying to annoy them and then use that to his strength by getting in their head.
And to play up high and be effective, particularly in the Premier League, you have to just not get tired. More or less, you have to have more drive and more want to than anyone else on the field. Yeah,
with the speed of play, you have to be playing at high intensity, a high pace, and you have to keep going. It's an endurance game, and if you're not up to the challenge, then you're not going to get the results that you need, and you're not going to stay in the league. You're going to get relegated, as Leicester are proving to be relegation favourites at the moment, even though they're not even in the drop zone yet.
Yeah.
Now you've got some really interesting stuff here, Jamie. Where can our viewers find you on social media?
So you can follow me on Twitter at JPTalksFooty, and you can hear all the latest news in the footballing world from me.
Thanks, Jamie.
Well, thanks, Jamie. Thanks for joining the show and giving us some little insight more on some Premier League soccer.
Absolutely.
We're now just 3 days removed from the Tobacco Road rivalry game when number 18 Duke beat number 8 North Carolina. Here are a few game notes from the game. Grayson Allen fouled out with under a minute to play, but had already made his mark on the game by scoring 25 points. 21 of those came from three-point range. And freshman Jason Tatum tallied 19 points in the game, all of which came in the second half. And Luke Kennard dropped in 20 points of his own. For the Tar Heels, they were led by Justin Jackson, who had 21 points, and Joe Barry had 15. Carolina led midway through the second half, but as a team they missed 8 free throws, and defensively had no answer for the Blue Devils in the second half. The Tar Heels were also without Isaiah Hicks, but are making no excuses in his absence. The two rivals will meet again on March the 4th in the final game of the season, and we will remind you more of that game as it gets closer.
And now, as we promised, we'll turn it over to Jack and Sam in what is called Jack and Sam's Corner, where they will discuss the latest happening in the world of sports. Take a look.
Thanks, Travis. I'd like to welcome everybody inside Jack and Sam's Corner. I'm Sam. I'm joined today by Jack Marion. Jack, you're a music major, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. A double major in music, industry studies, and vocal performance. And you are a sustainability major, is that correct?
No, it is a mystery. Okay, we're going to move on today. Our first topic, Tony Romo. Where's he going to end up? Jack, you got any thoughts on this?
Well, here's what I like to think. Tony Romo, he's at the end of his career pretty much. He's only got a couple years left in the league. Dak Prescott's taking over for the Cowboys. So I think Tony Romo needs to get out of Dallas. I know he's Jerry's boy, but I think he needs to go somewhere else. I personally think the top 3 candidates are the Bears. John Fox has done great with older quarterbacks before. He took Peyton Manning to a Super Bowl. I think he could really fit in there. Plus, they like the kind of gunslinger there, obviously with Jay Cutler being there.
Right.
I think the 49ers are also a good spot for him. Kyle Shanahan is taking over that head coaching job. He likes big arm quarterbacks too. I think it could really work for him. I think he would work well in Kyle Shanahan's offense. And then if worse comes to worse, I think the Cleveland Browns will take him. That's a last resort option. I don't think
for any quarterback, that's not where you want to go.
For any quarterback at all, and I also think that's Cleveland's last resort is Tony Romo. If they really want to disappoint their fans again, I think they'll pick up Tony Romo.
That's great points. I think Jay Cutler is all but done in Chicago. I think they've indicated that they're ready to move on from the Jay Cutler era. If I had to guess, which I do have to guess, I'm going to go with the Bills. And my reasoning for that is if he doesn't stay in Dallas, which, I mean, that's a pretty good deal. We'll pay you millions of dollars to be the backup quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. But if he doesn't stay, I think the Bills, they're not likely to pick up the option for Tyrod Taylor. And they've got a new head coach. He was the defensive coordinator for the Panthers, I believe.
Yes.
So I think that would be a really good fit for them. Also, another place would be the Jets, who, after giving their franchise quarterback the tag, he had a real subpar season. And I think Tony Romo, who has managed to string together some really good seasons in the past, I think he could do well for the Jets with the wide receivers they have there.
Well, I don't think that's a bad point, Brian. I think what we're seeing is not Romo coming in to be the starter for the next couple of years. I think we're seeing him come in to be a veteran player that can teach some younger quarterbacks. So the Jets would be a good option with Christian Hackenberg and also Bryce Petty.
Sure.
And then also maybe for the Bills with Cardale Jones. But I think he's just coming in as kind of like a placeholder for the next couple of years because this year's draft, there's not a lot of great quarterbacks coming out, I think, that could really carry a franchise right away.
Well, and I think what you also have to think about is, especially with the likes of Tony Romo, is offensive line plays a really big part in that because Tony Romo has been plagued by injuries. And believe it or not, a team like the Cleveland Browns, who I think have an underrated offensive line, I think that might actually be a pretty good fit if it wasn't such a black hole of a market there in Cleveland as far as football goes. But see, I think that's the main problem with San Francisco as far as Tony Romo goes.
Well, we're going to move on from that. We're going to head on into baseball predictions. Spring training starts soon. So, Sam, how do you think this season is going to be looking?
I think we're going to see a lot more of the same from baseball. I think the long ball is still going to continue to decline. I think it's still a pitcher's league as far as baseball goes. I still like the Cubs out of the NL, and I still like the Indians out of the AL, but the Boston Red Sox, they did put up a lot of trades around the trade deadline and over the offseason, picking up Chris Sale, which bolsters just already a terrifying lineup rotation as far as that goes. So I think those two teams are definitely the ones to watch out of the AL, and the Cubs, I think, are still the heavy-handed favorites out of the NL.
I think you're right. As far as the NL goes, I think there's not really another team there that can challenge the Cubs for the titles. The Cardinals are every now and then known for making a run.
Yeah.
They might. The Giants might. Who knows? But I think the Cubs are definitely gonna rest upon the mountain for a little bit longer. As far as the AL, I don't think the Indians are going to have the same magic as they did last year. Again, I think definitely the Red Sox are going to be a heavy favorite to take that.
Yeah, and I still hold out hope as a closeted White Sox fan that someday we'll get the Chicago World Series. But I mean, I don't know. They had a great start last year, but it doesn't look, after trading Chris Sale to the Red Sox, I don't know how fortuitous this season looks for them. But that being said, I want to move into the predictions segment, and I just want to get Jack, who's winning the World Series this year?
I think the Cubs. That's what I'm going to say. I think they've got all the power and all the key players to do it, and I think we're going to make a way too early prediction and say that the Cubs are going to take it again, back to back.
I'm going to say the Red Sox are going to do it. I'm going to say the Red Sox with their new lineup. They've got a great infield, got a great outfield too. Should have had the MVP last year. So I'm saying Red Sox. NBA, what's the prediction? I know this is before the All-Star break. These are way too early predictions. They're stupid predictions, but we're going to go with it. NBA.
Well, I'm going to have to go with Golden State, obviously. I mean, they're the obvious pick right now. They reached the finals last year.
Right.
They're a much stronger team this year, I think, especially with the addition of Kevin Durant. I think they'll do much better in the playoffs, and they won't blow a 3-1 lead. Hopefully, now that I've said that, they definitely will.
Sure. I think Golden State, you'd be stupid to bet against them at this point. But what I do want to say is I don't think it's going to be Golden State Cleveland in the finals this year. I think it's going to be Golden State Boston in the finals this year. I really like the team Boston has put together. And also Washington might be able to surprise a lot of people in the playoffs.
I don't agree with you on that one. I don't agree with you on Washington.
This isn't a show where we have to agree with each other.
Well, you're right.
NHL, what do you think?
I'm going to go with the New York Rangers.
That is a terrible pick. I'm going to say the Capitals for this one. Either the Capitals or the Wild. I don't think you can beat. That's Devin Dubnyk for the Wild and Braden Holtby for the Capitals. I think those are the two best goalies working today. So.
Well, that's your opinion.
It is my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
As far as the NCAA goes.
Final four. Well, let's just do the championship.
Okay.
What do you think?
I'm going to go I know this is a surprise one. I'm going to go UCLA.
Okay.
I think Lonzo Ball is going to have one of the best years in college basketball and take them all the way.
Okay.
And, I hate to say it as a Wake Forest fan, but I actually think Duke could put together a season. After their win last night, I think they could put together a season and go into the finals.
Okay. I like Arizona to come out of the Pac-12.
Really?
I like Arizona. I like the way they play. And I also like Chapel Hill. I think Chapel Hill has a really good team, and although they lost to Duke, I believe they lost to Duke.
They did. They did.
I do think Chapel Hill has a lot left to prove, and I think they will prove it.
Okay. Well, now we're going to shift to our very last one,
which is perhaps the stupidest of them all, the NFL. Jack, who you got next year?
I think I'm going to say this as a true Panthers fan. We are known for having really down years and really great years. I think the Panthers are going to finally make it back into the Super Bowl if they have a strong draft and a strong free agent class.
I'm sticking with the NFC South as well, but I'm going with the Falcons. They almost got it this year. I think we're seeing the beginning of an Atlanta Falcons dynasty brewing down there. I think they like where they are, and I like where they are. So I'm going to go with the Falcons next year for the Super Bowl, which brings us to our last topic. Is Tom Brady the best?
Is he the GOAT? Is he the greatest of all time?
Is he the best?
To me, no. I'd like to make the argument that Peyton Manning is. If you look at the stats, you don't have to look at the championships, even though Peyton Manning does have two with two different teams.
Sure.
He doesn't stay in the same system all the time. He leads the NFL in all passing metrics. To me, he's just the greatest of all time.
And it's hard for me to argue against Peyton Manning, the sheriff. It's hard for me to argue against him, but I do believe that Tom Brady is the best of all time. I think Deflategate will, it still has its critics and everything, and I'm by no means advocating for deflating balls and everything, but I think the future will smile on Tom Brady, 5-time Super Bowl champion. I believe he was a 4-time MVP, so I think he's the greatest.
In that argument, Peyton Manning was 5-time MVP, so 5-time MVP, 2-time Super Bowl champion. I just say Peyton Manning is the better quarterback.
Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how the history books remember it.
I'll remember it as Peyton Manning, and I think that's about all the time we have for this week. You've been watching Jack and Sam's Corner, and we'll send it right back to you, Travis.
That's all the time we have this week, but thanks again for joining us. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter for updates on all things sports. For some of the topics we didn't get to tonight, check out our Facebook page for some articles you can read about local sports, professional sports, and more, written by our very own staff. This has been Sports Bar for Braxton Critcher, Jamie Patel, and everyone else behind the scenes. I'm Travis Stanley. Tune in next week for an all-new episode, same time, same place, new topics. It's Sports Bar. Good night.